All right. Hi, everybody. So, what we're going to do today is we're actually going to not do what I originally planned, which was getting to menus and kind of making for a nice user experience. And instead, what I decided to do was something that I think is a little bit more essential, which is a restart. So, just as an example, if we do like Sokoban, we'll make it Sokoban and we'll do like level 1, for example. If I can type, there it is. So right here, the game is now impossible to beat, right? There's no way for the player to be able to move this block right here. They can get these two, but this switch right here will never be actually set. And so the only way in our current game setup is to quit out of it, which we actually don't have functionality for either. Right now I've just been doing like Control C, like so. Come back in, and then using what we've done, do this. But that's not really a great user experience, and it's not actually super hard to make a little bit better. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And we're going to be doing two different versions, actually, of restarting. The first one is what I'm going to call the bad version, if you will. And basically, the way it's going to work is we're just going to be using our, let me go to the other Sokoban file, this one, init from level. We're basically just going to be using this one. And the reason it's bad is it's going to be doing a bunch of reallocations, a bunch of extra work using this vector over here, and it's just unnecessary. But it's kind of, I think, a useful demonstration to see one way you could do it that will technically get the job done, but is kind of lazy. But before we actually even get to implement that, we have to actually implement some way for restarts to start. And so to do that, we can do here, and then I'm just going to call the function even though it doesn't exist yet, not update restart, and we're going to pass it in our state, and that's going to be that, and then we'll break out. So this function doesn't exist, so the next thing to do, obviously, is to make it. So we're going to put it right here, Sokoban restart, Sokoban there, and yeah. Oh, I already defined it, didn't I? Oh, no, I didn't. But it goes right here. I'm always putting that bracket whenever I do like a like this one. And I don't really know why, but something to think about for when I'm typing. Anyways, so this is our function, and the way it's going to work is we're going to first have to do all of our freeing. So if you remember from before, we have these three, and now we're just reusing them a bunch. So what I'm actually going to do is add one more function, and we're going to call it Sokoban free, and we'll take in right there. And so now what we'll do is at the bottom here, void Sokoban free, Sokoban there, and we'll, did I lose it? I may have lost it in the process, yeah. There we go. So now we take that, I saw there's a missing semicolon there, and this one, there's no name for it yet, but we'll also just follow the naming conventions for the file, which is just calling it state. So now if we go here, we can actually get back to restarting. So our goal, just as a reminder, is to call our init function that we already made, free, and then we'll pass it our state. All right, so far so good. And the next thing to do is think about the two things that need to be reset, which are the board and our actually we don't, it's just since we're using the init function, we don't even have to worry about the player position, sorry. So what we need to do now is we have to handle this problem. If we pass it the state, right, what we don't have is actually any instance of like the level itself. So what we need to do is we need to actually change our structure to keep the vector. So I'm just going to call it state.level for right there, or maybe I'll call it like original level just so it's, I think that's a little bit better of an, I think that's a better name. So I'm just going to keep it as original level. And then this is what we need to keep around. So we're going to keep it around. And I'm going to call it, and what we're going to have to do some annoying things to make this work. So you'll see doing this, original level, right. Okay, so now when we get into the init from level, right, we go here, and now we have this state.original level equals level, but there's going to be an issue here. So you can see right here, we're going from a value to a reference. And so there's another, so like we could try to do it like this, right? But then what happens is if we do this, then where our like initial declaration when we go to like main is messed up. Where to go? Right there. Right. So the way to get around it is we just do this, and then we have to do some annoying things. If we can do this, I don't think we can yet. So what we do now is we get rid of our reference. So now we're being even more inefficient. Let's see what's wrong here. Oh, it's const. We can just stop that. Okay. So now that's why, yeah, that makes total sense. So now like we're being even more inefficient. Maybe we can actually go back to this. Yeah, so we can at least pass the reference, and then we copy by value over here. And now what we want to do is we do state Sokoban from the level. And let's see if we're compiling. And let's see if it works. So I'm just going to do this. So you can see now if we end up in that state again, we're able to restart, and the player is able to figure out like, oh, I can't win, I should restart. And it works for capital R or lowercase r. So that is one way to do restarting. But it's also just not a very good way, right? Because we're keeping around this vector to reset from, and we already have these kind of like compressed versions of the level. I don't know if I love the word compressed there, but it's a lot smaller than this vector of levels, this vector of strings. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to get rid of keeping this, and then we're still keeping the reference. That's good. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of this. And so now if we try to run, obviously we're going to run into... Did I not save it? We should. Oh no, because I got rid of all the stuff that was calling it, obviously. Okay, so we're still running, but if our restart isn't going to work anymore. Yeah, so if I go here, all I'm calling is Sokoban free, and actually this will cause like a memory problem, which I don't really want to run into, frankly, where we free it and then we keep using the freed memory. So just a fun little potential bug if we're not careful. So the next thing I want to do is I basically want to change it. So instead of using all this kind of all the vectors, we're just going to be using the byte stuff that we had before. Now to do that though, because we're modifying these, we have to be a little smart about what we're going to be changing. And what we know actually is these two do not change. The number of solids, where they are, never changes in our current setup. And the number of switches never changes. Their position never changes in this current setup. So all we actually have to be careful about are these two elements when we're restarting. Where the player is and where the blocks are. So to do that, what we can do is we can do point original player. Actually, I'm going to put this point original player, and we'll just have that. And then we'll also have, let me do that, and then we'll have original blocks. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to have this extra player position and this extra pointer to some number of bytes of the original blocks. So now what we can do is we can actually initialize them over here. Now, in the case of the original player position, that's pretty easy, right? We just do this. In the case of the blocks, it's a little bit more complicated. But basically, we take our state.blocks and I went too far down. So we do this. We're going to malloc some more memory, right? We're also no longer going to call Sokoban free. And now we have our state original blocks. And basically what we want to do is we want to copy everything from our blocks and we want to put it into our original blocks. So the way we can do that off the top of my head is this. And you can see we have our destination, which is going to be state.originalBlocks. You can see that's our source. So that's going to be just our blocks. And then the size is num bytes. Easy enough. So the next thing to do is actually our restart function. So in this case, I'm going to also take this. We don't need to malloc again or reallocate or anything because the size isn't changing between levels. So in this case, rather than mallocing or copying where this is our destination, this is our source. So from here to here, we're going to change it. So now we're doing our original blocks. And what's happening now is the original blocks is being copied into the old blocks. And the last thing to do is state.player is equal to state.originalPlayer. And I hope you can kind of tell why this is just inherently kind of a little bit better, but we still have to see if it even works. See if I made some mistakes along the way. I did make a mistake along the way, so we can actually do that real quick. We have to free. I mean, we don't really have to free now because, again, the only case where free is being called is at the end. Oh, it's not even called at the end. Oops. Free Sokoban. Oh, that's terrible typing. Free Sokoban and Sokoban. Oh, it's not even, there it is. Sorry about that. Okay, so now we have to call free on the state.originalBlocks. And the order of the struct, I believe, was like this. So that's what we'll do. We'll fix that. Is it are all these? Yeah, all those were incorrectly tabbed. So sorry if that was bothering anybody. Okay, so yeah, that looks good now. We'll run it. So now we're using like our bit operations rather than using like a vector of strings. And everything seems to be working. We'll do a simpler level first, just for a double test. Do that. Move it over 1, still working. 2, still working. And the game is still beatable. Always important to make sure that the game is still beatable. Again, I'm not going to actually beat this. I'm just going to do a bunch of changes real quick. So now there's that, and we can do like there, and you can see everything is back where it used to be. So yeah, that is a working restart for Sokoban. There's still a bunch to do once we get to the menus, and then we're going to have some ability. We're also going to get into like reallocation, so we're not reusing too much memory when we start generating bigger levels. But I'm still tempted just to make like a 40 by 40 board state, and then I think that will allow us to make a better menu. But that's for the next video. Yeah, I hope this was fun to watch or something worthwhile for you. And yeah, have a great day. Bye.